Dr. Dhammpiya, Rector of Mettananda Buddhist College, Yangon, Myanmar.
The Most Excellency Venerable Siragu Sierra Sitaku International Buddhist Academy, Vivekananda Foundation, Japan Foundation members, and the Venerable Sanghas, priests, religious leaders, distinguished guests, and the ladies and gentlemen. This is my privilege. Thanks for this opportunity to present this paper in this interfaith. Today's living world seems to be something missing. Its position is a illusion, that is peace and harmony. Where has the process of peace and harmony gone? Once Albert Einstein said, "To live in the world is too dangerous." This is a precautious statement because the world has been facing many conditions which are threatening the world ever since before. Because of this, the world leaders meet in the different locations every now and then to speak for the virtue of peace and harmony. The world leaders precisely talk a lot about the global conflicts and the crisis. They do research for the cause of issues in order to get a better way of solution. However, conflicts and problems are getting more and more. In this regard, it is believed that the way of solution is probably related to more political approach rather than combination of spiritual approach. This means that the so-called peacemakers ignore the spiritual power, which is able to develop inner peace. Yet the political leaders are targeting the consequences of conflicts using theoretical methods, and they themselves have lost the peaceful mind for the time being. Therefore, they are searching for a way of solution to overcome the conflicts. Instead, they are getting more and more conflicts. According to Buddhism, the consequences of conflicts arises not because of single cause, but many causes. Many people in Myanmar and abroad have thought that many conflicts in the Myanmar arise every now and then because of poverty. This means that the people in the country are financially poor. This ideology is not true, because the so-called poverty doesn't mean the only financial poverty, indeed, but the many kinds of poverties, such as educational poverty, moral poverty, and the spiritual poverty as well. Therefore, so long as the people do not maintain their moral and spiritual virtues, there will be no way to get inner peace, so that it is impossible for the people to be no longer in peaceful living. Therefore, it is necessary for the leaders to make peace building by means of spiritual supporting either. Buddhists introduced the way of solution to the world via theoretical approach and the way of meditation. They state that no single cause can produce an effect, nor does only one effect arise from the given cause. Rather, there is always collection of conditions giving rise to the collection of effects. Moreover, the Lord Buddha taught that the main cause of consequences are ignorance and the craving which attach to living world in accordance with the Parijjasmuppāda. Today's living people are mostly supporting hedonism. Their lifestyle are beyond the satisfaction that they enjoy themselves with the pleasure, power, and the sexual activities, etc. Therefore, in many conditions, they have lost the control of mind and have to face unnecessary fear as well. They have felt their living is not safe, and their surroundings are vulnerable in many conditions. Therefore, it is a recall what Albert Einstein said, quote unquote, "The world is too dangerous to live in, not because of people who sit evil, who do evil, but because of people who sit and let it happen." It means that some of the most evil people are those who just sit around and do nothing. And there are bad people in the world standing around and complaining a lot without going to fix anything. Nowadays, leaders, including religious leaders, political leaders, academic scholars, everywhere attempt to solve the world's global conflicts, which are very much dependent on unsolvable conditions. We can see more issue in personal identity, but we cannot see the root of some conflicts in its identity inclusively. That's why, though they try to solve the problems by means of using certain methods as well as political power to solve problems, conflicts are indeed beyond what they think. In reality, more than ever, our living world engages political conflicts rather than religious conflicts. Many people presume that religion is a fundamental cause to introduce the conflicts into the nations. I don't agree with this ideology because many people nowadays fail to sustain their moral and spiritual virtues. Consequently, there are more conflicts every nation because they quote theory, but they fail to apply in the practice. In this context, many people say is the same. Philosophically, ideally, I agree generally, but not deeply cannot agree. Because nowadays, for example, like gender, suppose point of view of gender, grandmother, mother, daughter, and a wife. The men's side, grandfather, father, son, and a husband. They are the same gender, but their functions, consideration, situation are very much different. That's why maybe Dhamma theoretically the same, but function and the application may not be the same, will not be the same, never be the same. In order to reduce that conflict, it is necessary for the leaders especially, political leaders especially, to take its important role for the nations to get more peace and harmony. This is because the government has political power to authorize the nation to solve such kinds of issues. Otherwise, some citizens will take so much advantage demanding in many conditions, such as human rights, equal opportunity, justice, freedom of speech, freedom of religions, minority rights, and so on. Indeed, the government needs not to take any side and pay attention to maintain. It's necessary to pay attention to maintain the cultural value and the historical value and the moral context. Otherwise, there will be increased more conflicts. Therefore, it is necessary to educate citizens to have the ability to know how to manage the country. Otherwise, the country will have to face more problems every now and then. In Buddhism, people realize that hatred never ceases through the hatred in this world. But through the universal love, it can be ceased. This is the natural law. Therefore, the world leaders supposed not to use political methods which is targeting only conflicts. We need to work together, political leaders, religious leaders, and the academic scholars working together. Otherwise, it will be difficult to solve the problems and conflicts. We are longing for the world leaders as well as the religious leaders to develop more spiritual power and a great compassion towards living nations in order to get more peace and harmony that everyone is longing for. In conclusion, I do believe that this interfaith dialogue for peace and harmony and security will bring blessings to all the nations. Thank you so much.